the Mercedes Eqe. Today, very first time driving it ourselves here, full review on Autogefühl with Thomas. And this is, so to speak, the electric E-Class or electric CLS, depending on how you want to take it. And typical for the EVs, we have a closed front grille. Nice micro star pattern, it's a beautiful feature definitely. But you have this huge black panel, the sensors are hidden behind here, also with the front camera. The headlamps here with the signature, and LED is standard. This is the optional digital light for more high beam performance if you like that. It's also the AMG line, what you can see here. That means more sporty accentuations in the lower part, but all again closed off. And this very interesting matte grey paint is called Graphite Grey Magno. Really spectacular, always like to see that. Wheels from 19 to 21 inch. These here are 20-inch wheels with aerodynamic covers, because a lot of aerodynamic losses are happening in the wheel and the wheel arches, and this is actually really good then also for the range and so on, but they don't look that cool. Or what do you think? 4.95 meters or 195 inches is the length. That's about 20 centimeters or 8 inches less or shorter than the Mercedes EQS, the bigger brother. But what they have in common is the same, technology more or less, battery and so on, and this one bow design going from the front to the rear. Eqe badge right here. And if you wonder, can you actually open something here? Is there a frunk? No, there is not. They used all the space, for example, also for the HEPA filter that is optionally underneath that one. The only thing you can open here in the front is here, this opening for the wiper fluid. Yeah, that's a funny thing, right, isn't it? And you can also get on top of the AMG line here this night package. Then you have black frames around the windows and also these black mirror caps to make it a little bit more sinister even from the look. Technology-wise, what's also interesting is rear axle steering is available. So the rear wheels turn in the opposite direction than the front wheels. That reduces the turning circle massively and gives you more agility at lower speed driving. 4.5 degrees is the first option, and then optional 10 degrees. And that is basically always in the vehicle. It's just then released by software, this second step then. Yeah, that's a trend I don't like that much in the automotive industry. It reminds me more of like, hey, you have like a medieval gaming thing and buy another sword or something. Yeah, you know what I mean. Then here in the rear, you have the light strip going from left to right. Spectacular design indeed. Eqe 500 means this is the all-wheel drive model. Also says 4MATIC. One electric motor in the rear, one in the front. Better performance, of course. The Eqe 350 would be the one rear-wheel drive only. Then you can get the price lower. However, what they do have in common, both with a 91 kilowatt-hour net battery. What is the range? We will do another test here today. Our experience from the Mercedes technology, also from the EQS so far, is that you can round about have, like 400 kilometers, a little bit less, or 250 miles in winter time, and more than summertime at good temperature conditions, more than like 500 kilometers or 350 miles, something like this. But again, another consumption test later on. Here in the AMG line, we also have the black accentuation with this diffuser style in the rear. So overall, especially in that color here, a kind of striking look. But what do you think about the design? Tell me in the comments. Recharging, 11 kilowatt or optional 22 kilowatt AC and 170 kilowatt DC. And indeed, when the battery is preheated, 10 to 80% state of charge in 30 minutes. And a little bit more color choices. This one here is spectral blue, really beautiful color. Yeah, that's what we call Thomas blue here on Autogefühl. Or a brighter gray color is also available. This one here is alpine gray. This was also pretty fancy, doesn't it? Suspensions, you start with a normal steel suspension, optional then air suspension. If you pick the rear-wheel drive model, the Eqe 350 by the way, it also gets this plus. That means always the plus model is always the one with the highest range, because the rear-wheel drive only version will have a higher range, a little bit more than the all-wheel drive version. The acceleration figures, by the way, 6.4 seconds here to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour for the rear-wheel drive version. And with our all-wheel drive model, the Eqe 500 is less than 5 seconds. Then there are also these Eqe AMG versions, 43 and 53. We already have a static episode of that. We will link it in the video description and in the pinned comment. See you later there. But let's first continue with this one. Interesting details here when the door handles are opened. So these are flush handles. So when you're close to vehicles, they disappear for more better aerodynamics. When they open the vehicle, it's like this. And you can also, for example, have keyless entry like this, closing, and you open it by pressing this area. And the thing is, sometimes it doesn't work. There we go. So, but not like 100%. So, and then here, door closing sound is actually quite decent, although they are frameless doors. And then Neotex material is kind of like a neoprene-like structure, feels and looks really cool. Red contrast stitches. AMG line also comes with a microfiber at the inside of the doors. This feels really premium, nice. They call it microcut now. What's not that premium, I think, is one button for that whole memory seating and seat heating. That's one big button. And these handles here for the seat control, they do not move, so they don't give you any feedback. You're kind of like moving in thin air. Don't like it. And also hashtag capacitive BS here for the side window controls. So this is not a good trend, I think. This optional Burmester sound system. This one is great, by the way. And then what about the seats? These here are the AMG line seats. Here also microfiber inside, outside are the red. So this is an animal-free seat indeed. In Germany, you can also get the base seat, so the non-AMG seat with Artico. So it's a full leatherette in black or also in a bright color. In the UK market, you have to go here for the AMG line if you want to go animal free. On the US market, you can get the normal seats in full Artico, bright or black. You can also get the AMG line seats, but the microfiber on them is sadly not available. There are two forms. This is the AMG steering wheel in the AMG line. The other one has a different form. Actually, this one is a little bit cooler, but actually a very good size. As for the seating comfort, I have to say, so it's not that you sit down here and say like, oh, there's like bad comfort, but it's also not that you sit down and say like, oh, this is the best seat I've ever experienced. So the seating comfort we'll also see later on when we drive. I'm 1.86 or 6'1", maybe a little bit taller, and you know, when I put the seat all the way down, you wonder, is it all the way down? Because it works for me, but it does get very close as for the headroom, so it's nothing for super tall people. This one here is also equipped with the panoramic roof, so this is an option. And the cool thing is it does have a shade. Not all EVs have that. In this interior overview, again, what we can see, this hyper screen, this is an option for more than 8,000 euros or dollars. It looks fancy, and you have this 17.7-inch screen next to an additional 12.3 passenger screen, and here 12.3 on the left side. The base setup would be this one, and then a more vertical 12.8-inch screen here in the middle, and I would recommend the base setup. Save the money, and it's also somewhat less complicated. Here the AMG line steering wheel with the two-spoke design looks more modern than the base steering wheel. However, you still have these capacitive controls here everywhere. You can control the right screen with that one, volume control, left side cruise control, and here on the left side then this left screen. But while driving, it's definitely harder to control. But design-wise, it looks super fancy. Neotex material here on the top part. This mix again between neoprene and microfiber, red contrast stitches, and this beautiful ambient lighting. You can pick different color schemes, and also here when you control the temperature unit, it has this, effect that it goes colder or warmer also visually. So ambient lighting wise, this is just beautiful indeed. Zoom more details to the screens. Let's finish up the lower middle console here. Matte wood is also available, that you have less black piano lacquer. I love that, this matte open cell wood, great. Then open this one. Cup holders are somewhat adaptive, but I can tell you they don't hold like for example glass bottles, they don't hold them that tight, so they should be a little bit tighter, and that doesn't fly around. A lot of space, inductive charging pad, 2 USB-C charger here as well, then start stop button or also driving mode selection. This is the car key here, by the way. Michelle lifted here, so this one has a good quality feeling, and you have this classic split middle armrest opening with more charging possibility. Instruments, I do have somewhat a problem over that because it stays like this, and it's an open area, so it's prone to glaring. Here I would say it should be a little bit more hidden, like classic instruments, and maybe also more in this angle, so in this flat angle, it can be a problem when it's really bright. This is the map screen, but you can also have this more classic screen, and you also have more screens available depending on what you want. You can also adjust things in the head-up display here. Here, this hyper screen and then the central screen, it really has this curved function. And this is pretty cool. We are in downtown Frankfurt today, and look at that. They really built wow, this looks amazing, right? With all the skyscrapers. Of course, it's not available like for all single cities worldwide, but this looks really spectacular. Wow. And we have the optional Burmester sound system, which is really great in-depth 3D sound. So yeah, that sounds amazing. So for all music lovers, this will actually pay off. And if you wonder why is it more responsive, why is it faster than before? Well, indeed they did a software update now, and this obviously speeds up the system. Screens. 1, 2, and 3 also. When you are sitting on the passenger seat, then this one here gets activated, and you can also have these nice 3D animations here. Yeah, it's a little bit of a screen overkill, isn't it? But quite responsive, that's cool. And you can do basically everything you can do in the middle screen also here. And it's so important because then you don't have to move your hand over like this a couple of centimeters, but you can stay here. #irony. So I think it's not really necessary. Yeah, what do you think? Rear seating. First of all, if you have that option of soft close, it also works then here for the rear. Magic. Instead of the doors is really lovely. Both the Neotex and also the microcut microfiber, and also here like the dampening behind it. This I really love. And also here, ambient lighting around this area. This is cool. And also, have you seen with the seats? They also have kind of like this ambient lighting outline. That's really nice. And then you can see in that middle part, it doesn't have like an all flat bottom, probably for rigidity or because they hide some batteries there or something. But let's test it as for the legroom when I would be driving. So when I have the seat, and you can see here, legroom, there's actually plenty of legroom available. So for 4 or 5 tall adults, no problem. Headroom, it does also work for me, but I do, let's say I hit the ceiling with my hair. So it does come close, but it works actually. Can you also probably sit in the middle part? It's a little bit harder than here. Also, you do hit it more here, even here, like this. So yeah, it works maybe for shorter way, but for adults is no problem, also tall ones. Here in this package, by the way, we also have the contrasting seat belts. That looks actually pretty cool. And also here, this microfiber plush material. You see here the bench falls a little bit backwards. To me, that's not ideal for comfort, but some also do prefer it that way. But overall, I think comfort is okay. And indeed, I'll soon show you the trunk. They do not have a fast back opening, because they say you would lose even more headroom than here in this case, because you need to attach that hatch at some point. And then you also have a separate climate control for the rear seats. It does give you some feedback, but once again, this is like one button again, and this is a trend. I hope it doesn't continue. And then lower part, 2 USB-C chargers. I love these details, that they have like this blue illumination. This is lovely, right? Flipping the logo here for the trunk, and you can see it's a normal sedan trunk like in an E-Class, not a fastback opening. The reason is that they would lose more headroom than in the rear. Here the length is 1 meter or 40 inches. The width, however, is just 90 centimeters or 35 inches, a little bit disappointing. And the height here, 55 centimeters or 21 inches. And you can see it's still enough for a normal luggage setup. And this here, hard plastic. I mean, for that price, we could also expect some fabric covering right here, can't we? This one here, by the way, 21-inch wheels, the biggest ones that are available. Of course, it looks sporty, definitely. Here also in the black styling together with the Alpina gray. But there's one drawback, because in the rear the tires are actually so wide, mixed tires as well, and so large that the rear axle steering 10 degrees is not working anymore. Then you are stuck with 4.5 degrees of the rear axle steering. So if you want the full rear axle steering, you have to stick with the 20-inch wheels, and comfort-wise, it's a good idea anyway. And now, very interesting, a second interior exclusively for you. First of all, we have the bright styling in here, bright ceiling, also these bright seats. Without the top infotainment hyperscreen, here you have then this matte wood surface, so it's wood but with an imprint, very interesting, and you can also pick different stylings. So when you pick the base infotainment system here, as it is with the vertical one, you can express yourself more with different decor elements and you don't have that screen overkill. To me, this here is a little bit easier to control, it's a little bit more straightforward. The only disadvantage is when you have the base infotainment screen, like we know from the S-Class or the C-Class in the new generations, you are stuck with the piano lacquer in black right here in the middle console. So you cannot put the matte wood or something as we've seen with the hyperscreen. That's the one downside. However, another advantage is these instruments here have the separate panel and then they are more upright. You remember in the hyperscreen it has more this angle and that way more upright. I can see that one better. So overall I would indeed prefer this very base setup, save the 8 or 9,000 euros or dollars and just have a simple control and without that screen overkill. But what would you pick? This setup here? Or would you actually go for the hyperscreen and also pay the extra money for it? Tell me in the comments. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge, Mercedes Eqe 500, and we're at 80 kilometers an hour and the speed limit here is lifted. Let's go. 130, 160. Woo! Oh my god. 200 kilometers an hour, 125 miles an hour. Let's see the top speed here of that version. Yeah, we're reaching it right now. 215, 216 kilometers an hour. That went quick and it's still, wow, super well to control even at these higher speeds. What comes to our mind is, you already heard that, it was extremely silent in here. So the same thing like this, you know, like this additional foam that is applied to the raw chassis in the building process, which is done to the new S-Class and also to the EQS, is also done here to the Eqe, and we feel and hear that. Great noise insulation, super silent, and you have to think about these EVs, they don't make any engine noise that would cover, for example, some wind noises. So you might hear it a little bit more present, although it is not the case. But here, wow, super silent experience. That's definitely a great ride. So as for that, also really nice as for the whole Autobahn experience, for example, here on the motorway. And once again, the car remains really stable. As for the rear axle steering, this is very helpful then in situations where you have lower speed, makes the car more agile. At higher speeds, at some point then it steers in a parallel direction. So one more time, accelerating from 100 now in the sports mode. Let's go. Michelle's laughing. 160. Plop, 200 kilometers an hour, 125 miles an hour. Yeah, really good X-Ray. And wow, I mean, how silent it is and how well the car is to be controlled at these higher speeds. That's really amazing. And we can also switch around a little bit with the sound experiences. For example, here, but I mean, activate, and then have the option here, and then roaring pulse is possible. That is a more low frequency sound, like a lion, like, or silver waves. This has a more high frequency sound, a little bit. Yeah, but the vivid flux is to me the one that is most audible, definitely. And here, lane change while accelerating. Great, wow, it's a great feeling for the vehicle. I mean, so silent, so agile. It really feels awesome. And I have to say, it is indeed much more fun to drive than the EQS even. I mean, the EQS, considering the length of the vehicle, was already fun to drive. And here, this is the normal version of the Eqe. It's not even the AMG version, but it feels very sporty, low center of gravity, spontaneous acceleration. It just feels a lot of fun. So overall, I mean, the driving experience really great. So great noise insulation, great performance, steering is nice, the agile handling, the suspension is a very nice comfort between sportiness and comfort. These 20-inch wheels might also be a good compromise between 19 and 21-inch. 19-inch, of course, will give you better experience. Here in the sports mode, by the way, the suspension is definitely stiffer. So when you go to the comfort mode, it's definitely more forgiving. The interesting thing is, you know, we have stand suspension available or air suspension. And the cool thing is here really, even if you have the standard suspension, it gives you very good comfort. Last time I was passenger in this vehicle here in the US, and we were also having some bad roads. This time I'm driving myself with the air suspension, last time without, and I mean, it's extremely good, this suspension. But the base suspension was so good already that I didn't miss the air suspension. And that's definitely a key factor you can take away from that. Recent new Mercedes models, is not only counting for this one, to me lack in seat ergonomic comfort, especially for taller drivers. So this is not like material related, it's more like the seat ergonomics form. I'm not exactly sure, maybe the seats are just too narrow, too slim or something, I don't know. But I feel at this moment that the ergonomics, especially in the Audis and in the Volvos, are definitely better from the seating forms. So to me, seat form in Audi and Volvo at the moment is most comfortable. Oh yeah, and the Lexus sport seats we, for example, recently had in the Lexus ES, the F Sport seats, they were also really great in comfort. But here, we have to say, also when the Mercedes engineers are watching, I would try to work more on the ergonomics of the seat. Maybe this was here a little bit thing of, hey, let's take a look at how it dissolves into the rest of the design of the vehicle. But I would rather say, hey, make the comfort focus first and then check out the design. Here it seems as if it would be the other way around, you know. By the way, here once again at lower speeds, I really feel that the rear axle is coming around, and yeah, I'm once again amazed by how much fun this vehicle is to drive. And from a driver's perspective, if you think about Eqe versus EQS, definitely the Eqe it is. Really even more fun. The EQS just feels more like a ship you steer around. And I mean, you also have sufficient legroom there in the rear. The advantage to me from the EQS is that you have this fast back hatch opening, and here you more have that sedan trunk. But then again, even in the base version, you save around 30,000 euros or dollars already from the difference. And if you spec these vehicles, the difference will be even larger. Then you'll maybe end up like 50k or something difference. So the Eqe will be the better deal. It will not have big range losses in comparison to the EQS, although the EQS also gets a little bit bigger battery in the higher versions. But the technology, platform, and efficiency, this is all more or less the same. EQS may be a little bit more efficient because in terms of aerodynamics, the longer the car is, the better it is. That's also something which seems not very logical at first, but in the wind tunnel it becomes apparent then. But still, efficiency will be more or less the same. That's also why the range difference won't be mattering that much. I think the main difference than Eqe, EQS will be that price difference, and then you can say, hey, you can actually easily also go for the EQS. So now we're approaching some winding corners, and it's starting to snow up here actually, because we're going higher and higher and higher. It's getting colder and colder. And that's the thing, it does not have a heat pump, neither the Eqe nor the EQS. I am suspecting that this will be kind of remastered in a facelift in a couple of years or something. I think so, because our tests have shown that the range losses for the EQS already have been significant in winter times. It's also the same with other EVs, but here, since you have that missing heat pump, it's definitely a thing. So now we have two more things to come. Winding corners and then the final consumption for today. Here we go. Let's put to the sport mode once again. And now we're getting to a nice 90 degree. Here I also I don't have to turn the steering wheel that much. And now, wow, acceleration up the hill. Now it's also the snow here, even colder outside. Really nice. And this is very interesting. So if you compare the combustion engine models here with our EV Mercedes, the steering is way more direct and progressive. That's interesting. So to me, with the known Mercedes models, you always have to steer more. So just from that angle. And here I don't have to do that. So I really love that new steering approach. It's not that it would be too drastic or too direct. I think really very finely tuned. But now the big question is, what is a realistic consumption? However, today also at winter temperatures. And our final consumption, including accelerations. So you can see here is around 23 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers. That is some 37 kilowatt hours on 100 miles. And that means indeed 400 kilometers or 250 miles at winter temperatures, a little bit better than freezing temperatures actually, and also including some acceleration, so it can also be a little bit better, and it will be better especially than in summertime. And then you can also score some 550 kilometers or 350 miles in ideal conditions. And now tell me, what do you think about the all-new Mercedes Eqe? And also tune in to our Eqe 43 and 53 episode, the AMG version, or compare it with the Mercedes EQS.